Now, the area's only 9 o'clock newscast, Fox News at 9.
In less than an hour, a San Antonio jury convicts a man of trying to kidnap a girl from a local hotel.
A little girl testifies against a man she says slit her throat and killed her friend.
A preteen headed to school with a gun and a murderous plan finds out how long he'll have to pay for those crimes.
And to water or not to water? That's the question.
But first on Fox, you can't imagine how excited we were just to see some clouds on the horizon.
Yep, and we saw some rain too. Alex is here to tell us what's going on. Alex?
Oh yeah, it was raining cats and dogs out there. It was just incredible. Cars were floating away the whole bit. It was just too much. We also got another system sitting out here. This could be the next big tropical depression that'll show up over the next few days, guys. So maybe we'll get a little bit more rain in here before it's all over with.
I sure hope so. Okay, thanks, Alex. A little later, Jeff Martinez sorts out when we can and can't water while we wait around for some more rain. Well, it's been a violent 24 hours for our law enforcement.
Police officers were involved in shootings here in San Antonio, Seguin, and in the South Texas town of Alice. We first start with what happened here around midnight. San Antonio police officers caught up with a suspect out of Tarrant County at the Super 8 Hotel on I-35 and Coliseum Road. The suspect left the hotel and led a number of officers on a pursuit, and ending on I-35 when he got out of a stolen SUV and pointed a gun at the officers. Detective Curtis Coolidge shot and killed him. No word yet on the whereabouts of a missing woman from Tarrant County who was last seen with the suspect.
After the shooting, officers found the suspect's gun was only a BB gun. Now, this isn't the first time San Antonio police have mistaken an air gun for a real thing.
But authorities say the two look so much alike in a life-threatening situation, it's just too hard to tell them apart. Tisha Powell's here now to tell us more.
Tisha?
Looks, feels, and even sounds like a real firearm. But as deadly as it looks, it's actually an air gun, similar to one officers found late last night on a man they fatally shot.
You know, we wish we could have those extra minutes, to ask that person, is that a real gun or not?
And many times it is, but on some occasions, suspects are carrying one of these that can easily be mistaken for the real thing.
An air gun is a weapon that uses compressed air or a spring to push a BB or a pellet out of the barrel of the weapon.
Greg Richards of Firearms Training Plus says most air guns are designed to mimic certain popular handguns, mainly for training purposes.
Many were used by law enforcement agencies and the U.S. military as inexpensive substitute practice weapons.
Richards says they're ideal for those who want to learn how to handle a gun without having to pay for the ammunition and trips to the firing range.
And this is one air gun that looks similar in silhouette and, again, would be virtually impossible for a police officer to differentiate in a stressful situation.
Robert Rivas disagrees.
Law enforcement individual should be able to establish, is that a real gun or not?
Rivas has 6 young children who he says will never own air guns. He wants them to grow up knowing that all weapons are dangerous.
Children don't seem to know the difference, really.
And sometimes neither do adults.
All right, so what do you think should be done to help officers tell these guns apart? Talk back to the 9 o'clock news, or that would be the news at 9 about this at 442-NEWS. That's 442-6397. Then stay right here because we play back some of what you have to say later on in this newscast.
Now on to those other cop-related shootings. An unbelievable 7-hour standoff in Alice ends with a SWAT team firing tear gas and flashbang grenades into a home. All to get to the 25-year-old man that police say shot at 2 deputies. It happened last night. The man's name hasn't been released yet, but authorities say he shot deputies Ray Aguilar and Paul Pomeroy after they tried to arrest him and take him to a mental institution. Both deputies went to a local hospital where they were treated for minor wounds and released. Another unusual shooting, this time in Seguin. A sheriff's deputy tried to take a disoriented man home as a courtesy and ends up at gunpoint. Officials say 39-year-old Bobby Joe Phelps got irrational and tried kicking out the patrol car cage and windows. Deputy Roy Campos pulled over to let Phelps walk the rest of the way home, and that's when officials say Phelps grabbed a shotgun that was in the car and pointed it at the deputy. Campos took out his gun and shot Phelps in the stomach and arm. Phelps is in stable condition tonight at University Hospital. He's charged with aggravated assault of an officer.
He's been described as a boy caught up in a bad situation, and today that 12-year-old Irving Middle School student learned his fate in court. He's accused of trying to take guns to school with another boy to shoot classmates last May, and in July he admitted to that act. We were in court today when Judge Laura Parker made her decision, and here's what happened.
Right.
This 12-year-old Irving Middle School student, too young to identify, told Judge Laura Parker this morning he's learned his lesson, that violence is not the answer.
And when the officer came and talked to you, did you try to make up a story?
No.
Did you lie?
No.
Did you try to pretend you weren't involved?
No.
In May, he and another boy were caught with guns with a plan to head to school to settle a score with some other classmates. Cops caught them before anyone got hurt. Today, his mother, Maria Flores, took the stand in his defense, at moments in tears, saying her son knows what he did was wrong and, if given the chance, will never make such a serious mistake again. The other 12-year-old in this case, who many say was the mastermind behind the plot, was sentenced yesterday to 15 years in juvenile jail. Today, Judge Laura Parker chose probation, saying this boy has the potential to be a success story.
This is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to tolerate any mess-ups, and don't think that I won't hesitate for 1 second to send you to TYC until you are 21 years old if I see you back here.
The prosecution and the defense say they are happy with the ruling.
It tells this young man that he has an opportunity to do well. I mean, it's telling this young man that he has potential and that he can turn his life around, but at the same time, it's safeguarding the community.
You know, of course, we would have liked to have him actually go home, right away. But in the wisdom of the court, she felt that he needed to have some time out to reflect and to gain some additional strengthening.
It's over. Now it's time to heal.
About those cool supers, Judge Laura Parker says she made her decision mainly on the fact that the boy pled true to the crime early. Her ruling will keep the 12-year-old at Southton Juvenile Treatment and Correctional Facility for counseling for an undetermined amount of time. When he is released, he will be under the supervision of a probation officer until he's 18 years old. He will serve 100 hours of community service, be on electronic monitors, and observe a 6 p.m. curfew for 90 days.
Today, a San Antonio jury found 25-year-old Adrian Rosales guilty of aggravated kidnapping, and it didn't take them long. Chris Palmer is in the newsroom with more. Chris?
Mike Rosales is the man who hit a 10-year-old girl with a metal pipe last summer. Took jurors only 46 minutes to convict him.
Verdict form. We, the jury, find the defendant Adrian Rosales guilty of aggravated kidnapping as charged in the indictment.
With that, a family from Mexico gets justice. 13 months ago, they were vacationing here in San Antonio. That's when Rosales tried abducting the 10-year-old girl from a Northwest Side hotel by hitting her 5 times with a tire iron. Rosales admitted to the attack in a May evidence hearing, but later retracted this statement.
And you did hit the girl, right?
Yes, sir.
What'd you hit her with?
Metal bar.
A metal bar?
Yes, sir.
Prosecutor DeMartino is pleased with today's verdict.
It's really hard to be surprised about anything these days concerning, verdicts and how quickly they come back.
This is probably what was on the jury's mind while they deliberated. 2 weeks ago, the victim identified her attacker on the witness stand.
Do you see him anywhere here in this courtroom?
Y ahora, el hombre que te pegó en ese día, ¿lo ves tú aquí en algún lugar de esta sala?
Sí.
Yes.
Rosales' attorney, Fred Rodriguez, says he knew a conviction was coming when the verdict came back so quickly. He believes his client needs help.
He's got a sickness. He's got an addiction of sorts, and it's no different than alcoholism or drug addiction or something. His happens to be something else, and it got him in trouble.
Without even asking.
Rodriguez hopes that will be taken into account tomorrow morning. That's when Rosales will be sentenced at the Bexar County Justice Center. He could receive 99 or life in prison. In the newsroom, I'm Chris Palmer, Fox News at 9.
All right, thanks, Chris. The capital murder trial of Del Rio drifter Tommy Lynn Sells got underway today with a guilty and a not guilty plea. A guilty plea to the attempted capital murder of one of the 2 girls he's accused of attacking last New Year's Eve. Not guilty to the capital murder of the other. And on the first day of testimony, the survivor of the attack took the stand to testify against Sells. Our David Cardwell has this report from Del Rio.
Okay, where do you want to go? Ashley!
She has the carefree smile you'd see on many girls her age, but a closer look at young Crystal Searles reveals the scars from the knife attack she endured at this home near Del Rio in the early morning hours of December 31st, 1999.
Instead of her drawing her strength from us, we draw ours from her. She's very, very together, very dependent on God, knows exactly what she needs to do.
What Crystal had to do today was sit in the same room with her accused attacker, Tommy Lynn Sells, and relive the events of New Year's Eve when she was spending the night with her friend, 13-year-old Kayleen Harris, at the Harris family home. It's the night prosecutors say Tommy Sells broke into the house armed with a knife, slashing and killing Kayleen and seriously wounding Crystal. The first witness on the stand was a bartender at this tavern just up the road from where the murders happened. She claimed Tommy Lynn Sells was in this bar drinking earlier on the night of the murders and propositioned her over and over again for sex. She says she turned him down.
And you know from that testimony what was on Mr. Sells' mind from the early part of that evening.
Prosecutors say Sells broke into the Harris home intending to rape the girls, and that enhances the charges against him from murder to capital murder. Sells' attorneys deny the sex motive, and their client only pleaded guilty today to the attempted murder of Crystal.
Well, I think his strategy is that he's going to try to get off with attempted murder with Crystal, and I don't know, maybe he's insane or something.
Myrna,
yeah, he doesn't want to die.
On the witness stand, Crystal's brave face broke into sobs as she described seeing Kayleen murdered and the knife turned on her. She survived by feigning death, then running for help after Sells left the house. It is her description of the attacker which led authorities to Sells, and they credit her spirit for cracking the case.
She is so strong. We're all very, very proud of her. And she's our hero.
In Del Rio, David Cardwell, the 9 o'clock news.
Testimony in the trial continues tomorrow. No word yet on whether Sells himself will testify.
It's 15 years in prison for a former Mexican newspaper reporter who pled guilty to child sex charges last month. Police arrested Jermaine Munoz back in January. They say the inappropriate conduct happened when he took an 8-year-old girl swimming. Munoz must also pay a $1,000 fine. Meanwhile, a couple of motorists stopped to put out a roadside fire and end up finding a body. It happened around 5 this morning in southeast Bexar County near New Sulphur Springs Road on Loop 1604. A sheriff's deputy says they are investigating this as a homicide. He says the victim's body was badly burned, but they do know she was a white female. They're waiting for autopsy reports to know more. And a man and his girlfriend were arrested near Leon Creek for allegedly stealing washing machines. San Antonio police found the couple this morning surrounded by about 6 washing machines, which police say they had opened up to steal the money inside. Authorities say the machines were taken from area apartment complexes.
They leave their wash areas open at night for people, residents, to go wash their clothes. What apparently he's doing is he's just going in there and cutting the hoses and loading them up in his pickup and bringing them on out here and then getting the money out of the machines.
Herron says they have dealt with the male suspect in this case before. The couple could be facing felony theft charges.
Meanwhile, a pilot and a student learn a hard lesson today and end up in a Wilson County field. According to Sheriff Joe Tackett Jr., the Cessna's engine failed and the pilot could not get it restarted. The pair then attempted an emergency landing but failed. The plane crashed and flipped over in a field in northwest Wilson County. The pilot and his student walked away shaky but unharmed. And officials say CPS crews working on electrical lines are to blame for a fire on the northwest side of town. Apparently, the crews dug a steel rod into the ground to give them support while they worked on overhead wires, but the rod had an electrical current going through it, and it hit a pipeline, blowing a hole through that line. Officials put out that fire and have the problem under control. Now, aren't these water restrictions just driving you crazy, figuring out what day to water, at what time, and should we use a soaker hose or not? Well, now the latest, a ban on sprinklers. While San Antonians try and figure it all out, many lawns are drying up fast. Jeff Martinez sorts it all out for us.
Lawns all across San Antonio are dying for water, and many of us want to give them some relief, but when and how? Current water restrictions have a lot of us confused.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, when they give you a $200 fine for watering your grass on the wrong day, even though you don't know which day.
Actually, I'm not even aware on what day I'm supposed to water.
2 sets of restrictions are in place now. Stage 2 because of the low aquifer and because the Comal River is below 150 CFS, a sprinkler ban.
I had no idea. I had no idea they banned sprinkler use. my grass doesn't look too good right now.
The SAWS director says they're working on making the rules easier to understand.
This is a period of transition. You know, the Edwards Aquifer Authority has got to come up with some permanent rules. They've got to develop relationships with all of our water utilities. So it's going to be a confusing time.
To sort out the confusion, here's what you need to know according to the Edwards Aquifer folks. You can no longer water using sprinklers, but you can hand water every day of the week, no matter what your address is, but only between 3 in the morning to 8 in the morning, or 8 in the evening to 10 in the evening, and if you just put a new lawn in, you can request a watering permit from SAWS. Another confusing issue surrounding the current water restrictions are when homeowners can water their foundation. Many people are concerned their foundations are either shifting or cracking because of the dry conditions. Well, you're still allowed to water your foundation with either a hose or soaker hose. But you can no longer use soaker hoses for anything else other than foundations. Jeff Martinez, the 9 o'clock news.
Now, many say the sprinkler ban has been the most confusing part. The Edwards Aquifer Authority called for it, but the San Antonio City Council has not adopted it yet. They'll take that up Thursday along with the proposed Stage 3 restrictions. So right now, you may not get fined for using your sprinklers until the city adopts it.
Subliminal message or honest mistake? Governor Bush finds himself in a little more political hot water.
Most smokers say they started young. A new study may show why that happens.
It's the new in thing to do north of the border. Get together with your friends and beat the heck out of each other. It's on the edge.
And Jonathan Walton goes south, as in underground in tonight's Walton's Window.
I hope you rolled up the windows to your car. It's raining outside. The radar is up next.
Coming up later on Maximum Sports, there's no quarterback controversy in Dallas. Should there be? A Japanese select baseball team is in town to take on a local college team. And Bobby Knight, cheap shots and interview tonight. That's later on Maximum Sports.
You're watching Fox News at 9.
The idea of one frame out of 900 hardly, in my judgment, makes a conspiracy.
But it does make for some ugly political mudslinging. A new political ad from the Bush camp has letters and words that pop up on the screen very quickly, and some believe it's subliminal name-calling. Fox News' Carl Cameron shows us why George W. spent most of his day explaining this one.
In Orlando, George W. Bush was peppered with questions about an alleged subliminal message in a Republican National Committee ad. As the narrator criticizes Al Gore's health care proposals, fragments of the word bureaucrats flash on the screen, revealing the word rats for a split second, shown here in slow motion.
I am convinced this is not intentional, but we don't need to play, cute politics. I'm going to win this election based upon issues.
Before the ad even hit the airwaves 2 weeks ago, Fox News' Tony Snow noted the frame by freezing it.
Is that subliminal or what?
Just recently, some Democrats began to complain, and now the vice president has.
I've never seen anything like it.
But Bush aides unequivocally deny any subliminal messages and say that nothing is visible if the tape is not slowed down.
The Democrats are trying to make a mountain out of a molehill.
Bush reviewed the ad personally on a computer screen.
It's impossible to see it, just if you run it and look at it on TV.
The Bush camp has complained for months that the RNC in Washington is too quick with nasty attacks on the opposition. Bush said the ad had already been slated to stop before the flap. He may have jump-started an old flap over his diction and grammar with his mispronunciation of the word subliminal.
The idea of putting subliminal messages into ads is It's ridiculous.
He garbled the word 3 more times in just 9 minutes.
I don't think we need to be subliminal about the differences between our views on...
Bush's verbal slip-ups occur regularly. In the latest Vanity Fair magazine, columnist Gail Sheehy cites experts who suggest that Bush has the learning disability dyslexia. He says not so.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the diagnosis. I didn't realize I had dyslexia until her article came out.
Bush had hoped to focus this day on health care, but found himself instead denying allegations about subliminal advertising messages and dyslexia. Not the kind of message he hopes to convey as he struggles to regain the momentum and upper hand against Al Gore. In St. Louis, Missouri, Carl Cameron, Fox News.
Well, it won't be the last swing the candidates make at each other, believe me. Last week, Bush's running mate Dick Cheney took the heat for not voting in the primary and skipping 14 of the past 16 elections since he registered to vote in Texas 5 years ago.
Well, there are more problems for Ford Motor Company. First, they had to recall Firestone tires on their Explorers. Now it's a whole lot more. Ford is recalling about 1,600 Escapes that were built without four-wheel drive or anti-lock brakes. Also on that list, about 22,000 of the 2001 Crown Victorias, Mercury Grand Marquis, Lincoln Town Car sedans, and Windstar minivans. There's a flaw in them that could cause airbags to deploy without a crash. And Bridgestone Firestone officials are taking the stand in a congressional hearing about the huge tire recall. They say that for the longest time, the company did not see problems with its tires. Some say Firestone didn't act on customer complaints quickly enough. Now, although the executive vice president of that company agrees that the company did get a lot of complaints, he says they thought they were because there were so many tires on the market, not because there was a problem.
The federal government wants to keep tobacco companies away from teenagers, and here's might be more proof why. New research has found that young people can become addicted to nicotine very quickly. Indeed, 63% of smoking teenagers studied showed signs of addiction within 1 month. And even worse, 3/4 of them are never able to quit. Researchers say the information is very disturbing because smoking does a lot more damage to a young, still developing body than to older people.
Up next on The Edge, want to fight? We know where you can literally take a swing and hit someone.
Christina Aguilera won't be singing on stage anytime soon. We'll tell you why.
And this Hollywood star laid tons of cash on the table hoping to set a score.
Plus, Darryl Strawberry is in trouble with the law again. The guys of Maximum Sports have the details. Enough they're annoying. Now some say talking toys have potty mouths. You've got to listen to this one. Fox's Chris Osborne reports.
This friendly-looking Furby was so likable, Marianne and Stephen Martin bought it for their 1.5-year-old grandson, Jonathan.
We saw this little furry animal thing they called Furby. Thought it would be cute.
The Martins bought the Talking Furby Buddy, a small beanbag toy pre-programmed to say phrases like kiss me and me want hug. But when the Martins listened to their new toy at home, they didn't hear hug me.
I'm not going to repeat that one.
She believes she heard a swear word. Is this imagination run wild, or is the toy really vulgar?
They say it says hug me. I in turn say it's a 4-letter word.
So what does it really say? This is the debate. Not everyone who listens hears the same thing. But the Martins are outraged and convinced this seemingly harmless toy has one dirty mouth. The yellow Furby Buddy, which the Martins say is vulgar, came from here. So Walmart took them all off the shelves, saying they would err on the side of caution. It's a scenario that's happened in many places around the country, and the toy's maker insists. Furby says, hug me. Though the Furby with the alleged foul mouth is now out of production, the toy's maker, Tiger Electronics, says all sounds made by the yellow talking Furby buddies are pre-recorded. The toy does not use any inappropriate language. If someone feels that it does, they are mishearing it and can return it to the store. In the meantime, the Martins are still questioning, is this a friendly or filthy Furby? In Swansea, South Carolina, Chris Osborne, Fox News.
Wow, the latest in entertainment in Montreal is packing quite a punch with Canadians. It's called Fight Night at the Dome. A local bar owner is letting his patrons mix it up in the ring with plenty of paddling. And it's not just the fellas. These ladies say they're workout partners who just wanted to test each other's abilities. Now, everyone taking part does have to take an alcohol test. Management says they don't want it to become your typical barroom brawl.
Of course, the dirty talking Furbies are from South Carolina. Figures. Also on the edge, a law was passed today in the Netherlands that allows gay marriages. Lawmakers overwhelmingly supported the measure, which also calls for adoption rights and divorce guidelines. Denmark was the first country to legalize gay marriages, but activists say the Dutch law goes further, creating full equality for gays.
I'm Jonathan Walton. You think dinosaurs don't exist? Well, meet Grendel. Check out tonight's Walton's Window.
Bad news for some fans of this teenage pop star.
And there will be no quarterback controversy in Big D, but should there be? That's on Max Sports. Max Sports.